Right now, as you read these words, millions of men are dying inside in relationships they built with their own hands. They are trapped in snares they themselves created, believing they were doing everything right. They sacrificed, they gave in, they pleased, and now they are empty, controlled, despised. You are probably one of them. And the worst part, you still think the problem is that you're not trying hard enough. Society sold you a lie so beautiful, so seductive, that you bought it without question. They told you that true love is built on constant sacrifice, boundless kindness, and the incessant pursuit of making your partner happy. They promised you it would strengthen the bond, ensure respect, and build a lasting relationship. You believed it. Of course you believed it. We all did. But the brutal reality, the truth no one dares to tell you, is that female evolutionary programming interprets your excessive kindness, your lack of boundaries, and your submission as absolute signs of weakness. There are no exceptions. Every time you give in, she loses respect. Every time you prioritize her validation over your purpose, she sees you as inferior. Every time you ignore your own limits to keep her happy, you activate a primitive mechanism in her that screams, "This man is not strong enough." And then the devaluation begins. Silent, relentless, devastating. You've been lied to your whole life. Your mother taught you wrong. Your father probably taught you nothing. School programmed you to be docile. Media showed you that the romantic hero is the one who sacrifices himself. And now, here you are, living the consequence of decades of indoctrination. This video will expose the truth the system doesn't want you to know. It will hurt. It will destroy some of your most fundamental beliefs. But if you have the courage to face reality, if you still have a shred of a man left inside you, keep reading. Because what comes next will change everything. The phenomenon we are about to dissect is not new. It's ancient. But you've never seen it clearly because no one showed you. It's the spiral of silent devaluation. And it's happening to you now as you read this. Maybe you're already at rock bottom and don't even realize it. Maybe it's just beginning. It doesn't matter. The pattern is always the same. It works like this. You enter the relationship being yourself, strong, purposeful, with boundaries. She's attracted. Everything seems perfect. Then it begins. A small test. She asks you to cancel something important to you, something trivial to her. You hesitate. She gets upset. You give in, thinking it's just this once, that you're being a good partner. She smiles. You feel good. You just failed the first test. And she noticed. The next test comes faster. She criticizes something about you, disguised as concern. Your clothes, your friends, your hobby. You change, thinking you're evolving, that you're being flexible. You just failed the second test. Now she knows she can mold you. She can control you. And the respect begins to evaporate. The tests escalate. They always escalate. She invades your space, disregards your boundaries, withdraws physical intimacy when you don't obey, belittles you in public, compares you to other men, and you, desperate to get back what you had in the beginning, do more, try harder, sacrifice more. And the more you try, the less she respects you. The more you please, the less she desires you. The more you give in, the more she despises you. It's a spiral, downward, always downward. And in the end, you look in the mirror and don't recognize the man staring back. Empty, controlled, without purpose, living to please someone who has lost all respect for you. And the darkest part? She doesn't do it consciously. It's instinct. It's biology. It's her evolutionary programming testing if you are strong enough to protect and lead. And you are failing every test. John was 42 when his life fell apart. Software engineer, six-figure salary, house in an upscale neighborhood. Married for 15 years to Mary, the woman of his dreams. Smart, beautiful, charismatic. He remembered their wedding day as if it were yesterday. The way she looked at him, the promise of a life together. He was on top of the world. The first few years were good. Not perfect, but good. Then Mary mentioned she wanted an SUV. Family-friendly, safe for future children. John had a sports car he'd loved since he was 20. His prize for years of hard work. But he sold it, without hesitation, because making Mary happy was more important. She smiled. He felt like a hero. Then came the hobby. He played soccer every Saturday with college friends. A 10-year ritual. Mary started mentioning he spent too little time at home, that she felt lonely, that his friends were immature, always drinking, making childish jokes. John thought about it. She was right, wasn't she? He should prioritize his marriage. So he stopped. His friends called a few times. He declined. After a while, they stopped calling. Mary seemed happy. John felt empty, but convinced himself he was doing the right thing. Then came the move to a new city. Mary's family lived 3 hours away. She wanted to be closer. John had built a solid career at his company. He had friends, a life. But Mary insisted. She cried a few times, said she felt isolated, that she needed her family's support. John got a transfer, lower salary, inferior position. But Mary was happy. That's what mattered, right? The criticisms started subtly. His shirt didn't match. His haircut was dated. He could work out more. John accepted everything. Changed his wardrobe, went to the gym, cut his hair as she suggested. But Mary always found something new. His way of speaking was monotonous. His stories were boring. He wasn't ambitious enough. Each criticism was a small stab. He bled inside but smiled outside. Sex began to disappear. First once a week, then once a month, then almost nothing. Mary always had an excuse, tired, headache, stressed, but she had energy for everything else, to go out with friends, to binge-watch shows, to do yoga with the new instructor she adored. John felt rejected, but said nothing. He didn't want to be the needy husband, the weak man who begs for sex. He tried everything: surprise romantic dinners, weekend trips, expensive gifts, flowers every week. Mary accepted with a polite but distant smile, as if she were accepting courtesies from a stranger, not her husband. John felt smaller and smaller, invisible, a provider, a listener, a piece of furniture in his own home. Couples therapy was the last attempt. The therapist, a 50-year-old woman with a diploma on the wall and a professional smile, listened to Mary talk for hours about how she felt misunderstood, unsupported, lonely. John tried to explain his side, but was always interrupted. The therapist said he needed to be more empathetic, more present, more emotionally open. John left each session feeling more guilty, more inadequate. He was trying so hard. Why wasn't it enough? Then came the day. Mary sat with him in the living room, the same couch where they watched movies. She said she was leaving him, that she had met someone. The yoga instructor, 10 years younger. She said she needed someone who made her feel alive. That John was a good man, but she needed more. She needed passion, adventure, a real man. John was paralyzed. He couldn't process it. 15 years. He had sacrificed everything, given everything, and it wasn't enough. It was never enough. The divorce took 70% of his assets. The house, half his pension. Mary got primary custody of the children. John saw them twice a month. They looked at him with pity, with disappointment. The weak father who was left, the man who couldn't keep his family together. Today, John lives in a rented apartment, small, empty. He goes to work, comes home, eats alone, sleeps alone. He has no friends, no hobbies, no purpose. He looks in the mirror and sees a ghost, a man who betrayed himself in search of validation that never came. And the question that haunts him every night, the question that keeps him awake, is simple and devastating. How did such a successful man become so irrelevant in his own life? Do you feel something familiar in John's story? You should, because he is not an exception. He is the rule. And if you're thinking, it's different for me, you're wrong. It's exactly the same. You just haven't reached the end yet. But you will, unless you wake up now. The spiral of silent devaluation doesn't happen all at once. It's a campaign, a war of attrition, and it uses specific tactics, tested by millennia of evolution. Let's dissect each one. And as I describe them, you will recognize them. You will feel that pang in your stomach, because you are living it now. First comes the innocent, subservience test. She asks for small favors that seem reasonable. Canceling a workout to go shopping with her, changing your weekend plans to visit her family, putting aside a personal project to help her with something trivial. Isolated, they seem like acts of love. But they are not. They are tests. She is measuring how much of your frame you are willing to concede. And every time you give in, she scores a point. She knows she can control you, that you have no boundaries, that you are weak. You'll think, but they're just small things. Compromise is about giving in, right? Wrong. True compromise happens when both concede on things that matter equally. This isn't compromise, it's submission. And she feels the difference. She might not verbalize it, but she feels it, and something inside her loses respect. Then comes the poisoned constructive criticism. She starts pointing out your flaws, always disguised as concern, always under the justification of wanting what's best for you. Your beard makes you look old. Your friends are negative and drag you down. You could dress better. You should be more ambitious. Each criticism is a stab. Each suggestion is an attack on your identity. But she packages it all with a smile and an, "It's just because I care." And you believe it. You change. You trim your beard. You distance yourself from friends. You buy new clothes. You try to be more ambitious, whatever that means to her. And you know what happens? She finds new flaws. Always finds them. Because the goal was never to improve you. The goal is to break you. To make you feel like you're never enough. That you always need her approval. And men who live for external approval are despised, no exceptions. The selective withdrawal of intimacy is the most brutal weapon in her arsenal. She uses sex as a tool of control. When you obey, perhaps you receive crumbs of physical affection. When you resist, when you try to impose a boundary, the bedroom door closes. She's always tired, always has a headache, always stressed. But curiously, she has energy for everything else. To go out with friends, for the yoga instructor, for late-night binge-watching. You start to beg. Not with words, but with actions. You do more chores, buy more gifts, are kinder, more attentive, trying to win back what you had. But the more you beg, the less she desires you. Because women don't desire men who beg. Women desire men who have options, who have value, who don't need them for validation. And you've just demonstrated that you have none of that. The invasion of frame and space is when she starts to colonize your life. She schedules appointments for you without consulting, invades your work or hobby time with trivial demands, makes decisions that affect both of you without your input. And when you protest, she makes you feel selfish, accuses you of not caring, of not being a real partner. You give in, again, because confrontation is uncomfortable, because you don't want to be the villain, because you were taught that good men don't create conflict. And every time you give in, she occupies more territory, more control, more power, until you realize you no longer have autonomy. You live her life. You are an appendix, an accessory, a well-treated slave. Then comes manipulative victimization. Whenever you try to assert yourself, whenever you finally muster the courage to set a boundary, she reverses the game. She cries. She plays the victim. She says you make her feel horrible, that you are insensitive, that you don't truly love her. And you, programmed to protect, not to hurt, to be the good guy, retreat. You apologize. You give in. Again. And she learns. Every time she uses this tactic and it works, she reinforces the pattern. You are training her to manipulate you. You are teaching her that her emotions are effective weapons against your boundaries, and she will use these weapons every time she needs to control you. Covert social disqualification is when she humiliates you in public, tells embarrassing stories about you to friends and family, belittles you in front of others, makes jokes at your expense, all disguised as innocent humor, as sharing anecdotes. But the effect is devastating. You lose social authority, lose respect. People start to see you as she sees you, weak, inadequate, laughable. And when you show discomfort, when you ask her to stop, she accuses you of being too sensitive, of not being able to take a joke, of being controlling. And you swallow it. Again. Because confronting her publicly would be creating a scene. It would make you look even weaker. So you smile and die a little inside. Progressive financial control is when she starts to dominate the finances. She insists on having full access to your accounts, questions every purchase you make, makes you feel guilty for spending on yourself. But her expenses? Those are untouchable. They are necessary. They are justified. And if you question them, you are controlling, stingy. Don't trust her. You cede control because it seems reasonable to have financial transparency. But transparency becomes control, and control becomes dependence. And when the relationship finally falls apart, you realize you have no reserves, no way out. You are financially trapped. And she knows it. Strategic isolation is when she separates you from your support network. She complains about your friends. They are immature, bad influences, not good enough for you. She creates conflicts that force you to choose between her and them. And you, wanting peace, wanting to avoid drama, choose her. Always her. Your friends call less. You decline invitations enough times and they stop inviting. Your family notices you are distant and eventually pulls away too. And then you realize she is your only source of companionship, your only source of validation. You are completely dependent on her. And when the relationship becomes toxic, you have nowhere to run. You have no one. You are alone, exactly where she wanted you. The threat of emotional abandonment is her final weapon. During arguments, she lets slip that maybe the relationship isn't working, that maybe she deserves someone better, that she doesn't know if she can take it anymore, and you panic. Because you sacrificed everything, you have nothing left but her. The idea of losing her is losing everything, so you crawl back. You make promises, you change more, you give in more, all to avoid abandonment. And she sees the power she has over you, and respect dies completely, because men who are afraid of losing a woman have already lost. Men who beg not to be abandoned deserve to be abandoned. It's brutal, it's unfair, but it's the truth. And finally, destructive and idealized comparison. She starts comparing you to other men. Her friend's boyfriend, who always plans surprises. The ex, who is more attentive. The coworker, who is more ambitious. Always someone better. Always someone who makes you feel inadequate. And you try to compete. Try to be like these imaginary or real men. But you never succeed, because the game is rigged. The goal isn't to make you better. It's to make you feel inferior, forever. Each of these tactics works. Each of them breaks a piece of you. And when you look back, you realize it wasn't one event. It was a campaign, a silent war. And you lost every battle because you didn't know you were at war. Do you think this is her fault? Think again. This is the system's fault. The system that programmed you to fail. That sold you the lie that being a good man means being a doormat. And this system benefits from your ignorance. The couples therapy industry is complicit. Therapists, many trained in universities that prioritize specific ideologies, systematically fail to recognize the dynamic of tests and disrespect. They operate within a framework where validating the woman's feelings is the highest priority. And when you walk into the room, desperate to save the relationship, they tell you that you need to be more empathetic, more present, more emotionally open, more submissive. You spend fortunes on these sessions, weeks, months, years, and each session pushes you deeper into the spiral. Because no one is addressing her behavior. No one is saying that maybe the problem isn't you not pleasing enough. Maybe the problem is you pleasing too much. But that truth isn't profitable. That truth doesn't align with the narrative. So you leave each session feeling more guilty, more inadequate, more lost. And the therapist? She collects her fee, schedules the next session, and keeps you trapped in the cycle. Because cured clients don't pay bills. Dependent clients pay forever. Romantic media is the second layer of the conspiracy. Since childhood, you've been bombarded with stories of heroes who sacrifice themselves for the woman they love, who give up everything, who prove their love through submission. Movies, TV shows, songs, romances, all selling the same lie. True love is unilateral male sacrifice. You grew up internalizing this, believing that the ideal man is one who puts the woman on a pedestal, who prioritizes her happiness above all else, who molds himself to be what she wants. And millions of men live trying to achieve this impossible ideal. They spend entire lives chasing a fantasy that never materializes. Because the reality, The reality is that women despise men who sacrifice too much. But the media never tells you that, because fantasy sells. Truth does not. The legal and divorce system is the third layer. Laws have been structured over decades to disproportionately favor women in divorce cases. You lose your house, lose 70% or more of your assets, lose significant access to your children, and often you still pay alimony for years or decades. The system has created a prison. You cannot assert yourself because the cost of leaving is total financial and family destruction. You cannot set boundaries because she can simply abandon you and take everything. You are a hostage, and the system knows it. Politicians know it. Lawyers profit from it. And you? You live in constant fear that one day she will decide you're no longer worth it. And when that day comes, you will be destroyed by a system that sees you as a disposable provider, not a human being. Social and family education is the fourth layer. Since childhood, you were taught to be a gentleman, to respect women, to never hurt them, to put their needs first. And these lessons, coming from well-meaning parents, from teachers, from mentors, completely disarmed you. No one taught you to have a strong masculine frame. No one taught you that having boundaries is healthy. No one taught you that self-respect comes before pleasing others. You grew up without the psychological and emotional tools to navigate relationships. You are easy prey, and the system created you exactly like that, weak, docile, controllable. So you enter relationships without defenses, without strategy, without knowledge that a war is happening, and you are massacred every time. And when everything falls apart, you blame yourself, never realizing that you were programmed to fail from the start. The cost of ignoring all this is the slow erosion of everything that defines you as a man. Emotionally, you become an empty shell. Frustration corrodes your chest. Resentment poisons your thoughts. You look at her and feel something that scares you, hatred mixed with dependence. You hate yourself for needing her. You hate her for making you feel this way, but you can't leave because you have nothing left. Your self-esteem plummets. You look at yourself in the mirror and don't recognize the reflection. Where is the man you were? The man with dreams, with ambitions, with fire in his eyes, dead, buried under years of giving in, pleasing, diminishing yourself. You are a ghost inhabiting a body, moving through life without purpose, without joy, just existing. Practically, you lose control of everything. Your finances are overseen. Your time is dictated. Your friends have disappeared. Your house doesn't feel like yours. You are a tenant in your own life. You wake up, go to work to support a life that isn't yours. Come home to please someone who despises you, and sleep alone, even sharing a bed. Financially, you are vulnerable. A divorce can destroy you. Years of hard work evaporate. You can end up in a rented apartment, struggling to pay basic bills while she lives comfortably with half of what you built. And your children? They see you twice a month. They grow up without you, and eventually they see you as she sees you. Weak, irrelevant, disposable. Existentially, you betrayed your own essence. You sacrificed everything that made you you. In exchange for validation that never came. You lived to please and received contempt. You gave up your power and received control in return. You became exactly the kind of man you swore you'd never be. And this self-betrayal is the deepest pain, because you cannot escape it. It is in every breath, every thought, every moment of loneliness disguised as companionship. And then you ask yourself, was it worth it? All these years of sacrifice, of submission, of pleasing, was it worth it? And the answer you don't want to admit, the answer that haunts you on sleepless nights, is no. It was never worth it. You wasted your only life trying to win the love of someone who never respected you. And now it's too late to get that time back. But wait, it gets worse, because the cost of waking up, the cost of acting, is also brutal. I won't lie to you. The truth comes at a high price in the short term. If you decide to reclaim your frame, impose your boundaries, live with integrity, you will face war. She will resist. She will use all the tactics. She will cry. She will threaten. She will make you feel guilty. And perhaps Probably, the relationship will end. You may face divorce, devastating financial loss, limited access to your children, temporary loneliness as you rebuild your life. Friends and family who don't understand will judge you. They will call you selfish, insensitive, a homewrecker. You will question if you are doing the right thing. You will have nights where the loneliness hurts so much that you consider going back, accepting submission, living in the comfortable prison again. But here's the critical difference. The man who chooses to wake up and act, even paying that brutal price, gains something priceless. He gets himself back. He regains his integrity, his self-respect, his peace of mind, his autonomy. He stops being an emotional slave to become the master of his own destiny. He rebuilds his identity, rediscovers his purpose, reconnects with his masculinity, and then, operating from a place of strength, of value, of abundance, he becomes capable of attracting healthy relationships, relationships based on mutual respect, where there are no tests, where there is no manipulation, where there is true partnership between two complete adults. But the man who chooses to keep sleeping, who chooses to keep pleasing, who chooses to ignore everything he learned here, that man is condemned. There is no salvation on the path of submission. There is only more pain, more disrespect, more devaluation, until eventually she leaves you or you die inside completely. And the second option is worse. Because at least physical death has an end, spiritual death is forever. The choice is yours. And you need to make that choice now, because time is running out. So what do? How do you escape? How do you reclaim what you've lost? First, you need to map the tests and the pattern. Stop being blind. Start actively recognizing when she is testing you, criticizing, manipulating. Keep a mental or discrete record. Write down incidents, your reactions, her reactions. Look for patterns. You will be shocked at how consistent it is. Every time you give in, she escalates. Every time you retreat, she advances. It's mechanical, it's predictable, and once you see the pattern, you can no longer deny it. Second, reclaim your internal frame and purpose. You lost yourself. You need to find yourself again. Who were you before you started pleasing? What were your values, your ambitions, your dreams? List 3 fundamental values that define who you are. List 3 life goals that do not depend on her. And dedicate weekly time, sacred time that is non-negotiable, to work on these goals. No matter what she says, no matter if she complains, this time is yours, and you do not give in. Third, calmly and firmly reassert your boundaries. Start small. When she asks you to cancel something important to you, for something trivial to her, you say no, without anger, without long justifications. Just no. Maybe tomorrow, but not today. And you withstand her reaction. She will test. She will get upset. She will use the tactics. But you do not give in. You hold the boundary. And something interesting happens. She eventually accepts it, and a small fragment of respect begins to form. Fourth, invest in your social network and hobbies. Reconnect with friends. Even if it's uncomfortable at first, even if they are hurt by your distancing, explain, apologize, and rebuild. Start new hobbies or resume old ones. Dedicate time to them. Time that is non-negotiable. This serves 2 purposes. It reclaims your autonomy and diversifies your sources of validation and joy. She can no longer be your sole source. You need abundance. Fifth, establish your financial independence. Ensure you have control over your resources. Open a separate account if necessary. Build an emergency fund that she doesn't control. This is not betrayal. It is strategy. It is ensuring you have an escape route if everything falls apart. Men without financial resources are hostages. Men with resources have options, and options are power. Sixth, confront disrespect directly. When she disqualifies you, belittles you, openly tests you, you address it immediately, without yelling, without drama. You look her in the eye and calmly say, "I didn't like what you did. Don't do that again." And you change the subject. You don't negotiate. You don't explain. You have set the boundary, and you act according to that boundary. If she repeats it, you withdraw. You leave the room. You create consequences. Seventh, prepare your exit plan if necessary. If after all this, if after setting boundaries and reclaiming your frame, if the pattern persists, if she doesn't respond, you need to be ready to leave. Consult an attorney discreetly. Understand your rights. Organize important documents. Research housing options. Not because you want to destroy the relationship, but because you cannot remain a hostage. You need to be ready to choose yourself if the relationship is irreparable. And eighth, most importantly, cultivate an abundance mindset. Internalize deeply that you are a man of value, that there are other compatible women, that your happiness and worth do not depend on a single person. Start interacting with other women in appropriate social contexts, not to cheat, not to flirt, but to demystify scarcity, to remind yourself that you have options. This inner switch, this internal shift from scarcity to abundance, is what makes all other actions possible, because men who believe they have options act differently, speak differently, live differently, and women feel that difference, and they begin to respect it. Each of these actions will cause discomfort. It will generate conflict. It will test your resolve, and you will want to retreat. You will want to return to the comfort of submission, but do not do that, because retreating now is worse than never having started. It shows that you lack consistency, that your boundaries are negotiable, and that destroys any residual respect that still exists. You need to be unshakable, not cruel, not vengeful, but firm, consistent, relentless in protecting your frame and your boundaries. And if that means the end of the relationship, then so be it. Because living in a relationship without respect is a slow death, and you deserve more than that. Now let's go back to the beginning. Remember John? Remember his story? That 42-year-old man, destroyed, living in an empty apartment, haunted by regrets? You need to understand something crucial. John was not an exception. John is the rule. John is what happens to men who ignore everything you've read here. John is your future, if you don't act. Right now, millions of men are living John's story. Some at the beginning of the spiral, some in the middle, some already at the bottom. They wake up, go to work, come home, pretend, smile, give in, please, and die inside. A little more each day, until one day there's nothing left to die, just an empty body going through the motions of life. And the tragedy is that it didn't have to be this way. If John had understood these principles 15 years ago, if he had set boundaries at the first test, if he had maintained his frame, his identity, his purpose, perhaps the relationship would have been different. Perhaps Mary would have respected him. Perhaps the attraction would never have died. Or perhaps the relationship would have ended anyway. But John would have ended it whole, with his dignity, with his assets, with access to his children, with friends, with a life. But John chose to please, and lost everything. And now he lives as a warning, as a ghost of what could have been, as a brutal lesson for men who have ears to hear. So the question you need to answer, the question that will define the rest of your life, is simple. Will you be John? There are two types of men reading this now. The first type reads, feels the discomfort of the truth, recognizes the patterns in his own life, and acts. He closes this text and immediately begins to make changes. Small at first, but consistent. He declines a trivial request. He dedicates time to a hobby. He reconnects with a friend. And with each small victory, he gains strength. He reclaims fragments of himself, and over months and years, he transforms. He becomes the man he should have been from the start, strong, integrated, respected, free. The second type reads and rationalizes. He thinks, it's different for me. My relationship isn't like that. These tactics don't apply to me. She's not testing me. She just has legitimate needs. And he closes this text and returns to the spiral. He continues to give in, continues to please, continues to lose respect, lose attraction, lose himself. And in 5, 10, 15 years, he becomes John, destroyed, empty, full of regrets. Which type are you? The choice is yours, but choose now. Because time is running out. You are getting older. Every day that passes is a day you never get back. Every moment of submission is a moment of life wasted. You have one life, One single life. And you are spending that life trying to please someone who despises you for doing exactly that. The irony is brutal, but it's the truth. The clock is ticking. Your children, if you have any, are growing up. They are watching, learning how to be a man through your example. And what example are you giving? That men should be weak? That men should submit? That men have no value? Is that what you want to teach your children? Is that the legacy you want to leave? You have a choice now, in this moment, to wake up or to keep sleeping, to reclaim your power or to keep giving in, to live with integrity or to die slowly in submission. And I need to tell you something. I understand. I understand that it's scary. I understand that change is difficult. I understand that you've invested so much, sacrificed so much, that the idea of it all, being in vain, is too painful to accept. I understand that you love her, or you love the memory of who she was, or you love the fantasy of what you could be. I understand all of that. But understanding doesn't change reality. The reality is that the more you please, the less she respects you. The more you give in, the more she tests. The more you submit, the more she despises you. And no amount of love, of sacrifice, of trying will change that, because the dynamic is wrong. The foundation is broken, and you cannot build respect on submission. Never could, never will. So you have to choose. And I won't lie, both paths have pain. The path of submission has the slow pain of spiritual death. The path of integrity has the sharp pain of transformation and perhaps loss. But at least the second path has an end. It has growth. It has the possibility of something better. The first path, it's just pain until the end. You've seen the truth now. You can no longer deny it. You've recognized the patterns. You've seen the tactics. You understand the mechanism. Ignorance is no longer an excuse. From now on, if you continue on the same path, you are consciously choosing submission. And that conscious choice is what will destroy you even further, because you can no longer deceive yourself. You know the truth. And living contrary to the truth, you know, is pure poison for the soul. So make the right choice. Not for the woman in your life, not for your children, not for me. Do it for the only person who will be with you until your last day, yourself. You deserve to live with dignity, with purpose, with respect, and no one will give that to you. You have to take it. The choice is yours. It always has been. It always will be. And the time to choose is now.